Hey, it's Professor Homa. Welcome to part 2 of Reading Flyer. And what I did last time was just generate the images of this picture and this picture. And what I'm going to do is start laying it out in InDesign. And this may take some time, so I'm not going to record every little thing I do in here, but I'll kind of go over getting it started, and then I'll let you use your design skills to kind of lay it out however you use or however you choose. And I'll show you a couple tips as far as making drop shadows like I put in here, even making a gradient, which is not easy, making a gradient in InDesign. And some of these things are text frames that have background color, and we center it up and down. So I'll go over some of those things. I don't know how much of the design I'll go over, but again, we're using color, and we just want to make color that pops. We don't have to use all different colors. I tried to use the colors from the book, and I'm going to go File, New. And it's going to be 8.5 by 11 portrait, and 5 half-inch margins all around is fine. And I'll hit OK if you don't need facing pages. And that's how it's starting. And just right off the bat, what I'll do is I'll do File, Place, and I'll bring in my 2 images in my reading. The one, remember, I saved inside the pre-art, but I'll bring in the nickel and dime cover, and you'll see this won't be very big when I bring it in. And I'll do File, Place, and I'll bring in the other one, which is in pre-art. Now keep in mind, if I move it out of pre-art, I got to make sure I relink it. And you see what just happened right there? I should have mentioned that when you do File, Place, there's a little thing down here that says Replace Selected Item. You just have to be careful with that. You don't have to uncheck it, although you can. But you just have to be careful that if you still have this thing selected, it's going to replace the one that you did. So I'm going to just undo that. And if you undo it, it brings this here. So I'm going to click over here. So I have these 2 images. They're not very big. I can scale them up a little, but not a lot, because they're going to lose quality as I make them larger. So I'll just keep these off to the side right now. And in Word, I opened up the document. Now we're just going to copy and paste some things in here. You can copy and paste the whole thing and then chop it up or do it a little bit at a time. I'm just going to highlight this bio part, and I'll just copy, and then I'll go back to InDesign and I'll make a text box. Or you can actually, I think if you just click and make sure nothing else is selected, I think if you just do Edit Paste, it'll just make a text box for you. And I'm just going to drag it out. Now I'm not sure where I want this or what I want to do with it yet. And I'm going to start off very conservatively, making everything in a nice serif font, and then I'll kind of go from there. So I'll put this right in the middle because I assume it's going to be somewhere in the middle. And then I'll go back to that other file, and I'll get the stuff that appears at the bottom. This is all stuff that appears at the bottom. And I'll stretch this out so if it's centered, and I'll probably just do a centered layout or start with that. So this is the stuff that's going to go on the bottom to start right now. And I may chop some of this up, so I can move it around separately, I should say. And then we have this stuff in the middle here that basically has the event name and all this. And I'll just copy all of this, and I could copy this common experience thing too and just delete what I don't want. So I'm going to copy all of this right now, and I'll paste it off to the side because some of this I'm going to strip out of here. So I'll just go over here and paste it, and I'll keep it over here for now and kind of copy and paste in what I want. So let me zoom in and see what I have here. So it's WCCC's Common Experience, and so I don't need all this other stuff. I don't even need date. I'm going to take date out of here, but I'll keep in this Common Experience because that's kind of the title that's going to be at the top. And interview and Q&A, I'm going to put the reading part. There's a reading and an interview. I just put the reading, and I even took the name reading out of there, and I'll put that after the date. So I'll put some of this together, and I'll copy it, cut it out when I need it. And the event's name, you don't need the event's name, but it is A Visit by Barbara Ehrenreich, author of Nickel and Dimed, and that's the title of the book with the colon in it. So what I'll do first is I'll copy this part, and I'll just copy that, and I'll look at my whole page here, and I'll make a little kind of box up top here, and you could just use your text tool and make a box at the top, because I've kind of where I got the idea from the box. Book cover has kind of that black thing at the top, and I could put this in view display performance high quality, although it's not going to look a whole lot better, but I'm going to kind of follow that a little bit, use some of these little strips of color. So I made this box here, and then I'm just going to click in it and just paste, and I'll just center this. I put a WCCC Common Experience event. So you could do that unless I hear otherwise that doesn't work. So I'm going to do that, and it's centered. Now remember, even though I have no color in here yet, it kind of locks to the top. It aligns to the top. If you want to change that, you have these align things here. Where you really find this is under Object Text Frame Options. And it's kind of buried in here, but it's called Vertical Justification Top, and if you want to make it center, you can make it center. That way, if you select this box with your arrow, you could give it a fill color. You know, if you wanted it black, you could do that. And if you wanted the text white, you could go here to the little text icon and make it paper. Now I'd probably want to make it something nice and bold. You don't want to use thin type or even serif type. A lot of times reversed out of a dark background can have a tendency to fill in. The ink can fill in and make that even harder to read because there's like thin lines in the font. So we're probably going to make this bolder. Maybe for now I'll just use, I forget what I used on here. I might just, well, I'll stick with Minion Pro for now. It's a nice font. I'll stay with that. I'll make that bold. I'll make this a little bit bigger. And I'll even make it caps. And I'll just leave that like that for now. I'm not sure what I want to do with that now, but that's kind of like my head in down here. Same thing down here, what I could do at the bottom. And I ended up doing this like in red, but this part here, now these are in the same text box. I'm just going to cut this out of here. I'll just do a Control X, cut it out, make a new text box just with my text tool, and drag it along the bottom. And this thing is in my way. So I'll shorten it by grabbing this middle handle here. And then I'll take my text tool in here and paste. And I'll center that. And I'll also center it up and down. And instead of going in that text frame box, I can select this text box with my arrow, my selection tool. And I could use, there's a align center icon that in advance should be up here. That should be the one that works, although it doesn't, unless I have an extra return in here. I just have to check. There's something in here. Oh, there's like an extra character in here. If you ever need to see those extra characters, go to Type, Show Hidden Characters, and there was probably like a return in there that was creating some kind of issue. So you could put that on just to see where you have these extra characters. These little pound signs or hashtags are the end of text. That just indicates that there's no more text. So if you have any extra returns, you could get rid of them, extra spaces. All right, and then this thing down here, this font, I'm going to change. I'm going to do something like a Helvetica or something. Maybe I'll use a sans serif, so I'll use like a Helvetica. I'm not sure what I used on my other one, to be honest, but I'll use Helvetica Neue, which is a nice font, and I'll just use regular, and I'll make it white, which will make it invisible, and then I'll make the background, I'll just use a standard red. Now to make this background, I'll click on the entire box and then use the fill color of the box, and I'll use this red in here. Okay, and if you'd want to adjust the red at all, because it's just a standard red, if you wanted to make it darker, you could double click on it and then maybe increase the black a little bit, make it a little darker red. And that will, I'll just use that because it is a little darker in the image of the book that we're working on. So this is the starting part here, and that's how we're getting started. We have some other stuff to put in here, and I think I'll take a break here so that it doesn't get too long, but also I want to make sure I save this, and I'll save this as reading flyer, and you can put your last name on it, and I'll put a 2 on mine since I have I'm kind of working on a second one here. So I did have a capital R, so I'll keep that a capital R. I didn't put a project or exercise number on here, and I'll save this in here. And that's our start. So we have a couple things we started. We vertically aligned these things. We made them paper color with colored backgrounds. And what we're going to do next is kind of focusing on our focal point here and bring our images in, put a couple drop shadows and strokes on if we need, and start making this look nice.